Hi, I'm Andy Butcher. I'm an associate in the brands team at Bristows, and in this video I just wanted to talk about a few ASA, that's the Advertising Standards Authority, ASA adjudications from the last few years about native advertising, and specifically native advertising in social media. So we're talking about use of bloggers, vloggers, video bloggers and other online influencers. So first of all, what is native advertising? For those who don't know, it's also known as contextually targeted branded content, but basically it means advertising which blends into its surroundings. So advertising whose message the consumer absorbs without really realising that they're doing it. So it kind of blends in around the edges of editorial content. So an inherent difficulty with native advertising is that the advertising rules require that advertising is obviously identifiable as such. So clearly there's a tension there between native advertising, which wants people to absorb it without really realising they're doing it, and the advertising regulators who say that consumers must know upfront that what they're looking at is advertising content. So just a reminder about what the ASA considers advertising content to be. Two key requirements: one, that there's a payment, and two, that the advertiser retains control of the advertising copy. So a payment needn't be financial, it could be some sort of benefit in kind or a freebie. The control means not necessarily that you provided a script, but basically that the advertiser has kind of final say on what the content looks like. If the person producing the content has total control over what they say about a product, then it's not advertising for the purposes of the ASA. So the first adjudication I wanted to talk about is from 2014, and it involves Oreos, the advertiser being Mondelez. And Oreos approached a number of bloggers on YouTube. Two who they approached were Dan and Phil, who have a lot of followers, and they asked people like Dan and Phil to use Oreos in what they decided was called a lick race. So you take Oreo cookies, you split them apart, and then you see which of you licks the white filling out quicker than the other. So this was the lick race. So Oreos went to these bloggers and said, we'd like you to use Oreos for this lick race, produce a video of X length, we want you to mention the product, mention that we contacted you about it, and have fun with it basically. And the bloggers were also paid by Oreo to produce these videos. So a number of these videos were out there on YouTube, and in all of them, as I said, the bloggers made reference to, thanks to Oreos for making this video possible, thanks to our friends at Oreo for providing the cookies. But someone challenged whether the videos were obviously identifiable as ads. So was it clear to consumers that Oreos had provided the cookies, provided some sort of payment, but also crucially, was it clear that Oreos had editorial control over the content, or did consumers think that bloggers were just mucking around with Oreos because they love Oreos? So when this complaint was made, one of the arguments that Mondelez made in their defence was that there were a couple of comments under the videos which suggested that viewers were aware that Oreos were very deeply involved with the videos. So in response to some comments within the videos themselves saying, our friends at Oreo, a couple of members of the public underneath the videos had said things like, our friends at Oreo means they got paid. So Mondelez looked at these and said, look, clearly consumers understand what's going on here. They know that there's this close commercial connection with Oreos. The ASA weren't completely convinced by that. They said, okay, that suggests that there's an understanding that there was some commercial connection and some sort of payment, but it doesn't show that consumers understand that actually Oreos controlled the whole thing and had provided a tight brief for all the content. So as a result, they decided that this was advertising content that hadn't been properly labelled as such, and also it needed to be made more clear before the consumer engaged with the content that this was advertising. So doing something like putting in the actual title of the video, hashtag ad, advertisement, promo, something like that, so you've got that upfront warning. Moving on to 2015, this is a slightly different scenario because the relevant video channel on YouTube in this scenario was actually owned and controlled by Procter & Gamble, but they created this sub-brand for the video called Beauty Recommended. Now, on the channel, they used the wording for all the videos, sponsored by Beauty Recommended, brought to you by Procter & Gamble. So Procter & Gamble, P&G, they thought that was a sufficient disclosure. They thought that people watching these videos would understand that they were owned, controlled, paid for by Procter & Gamble. The ASA took a different view. Again, similar to the Oreos example, they said, okay, people are going to understand that there's some sort of financial involvement there, there's maybe some sort of sponsorship deal, but it's not clear that Procter & Gamble actually has total control over the content. As a result, the video should have been labelled as ads. It should have been very clear that they were marketing communications, and this wasn't clear. So if you visit the Beauty Recommended channel now, it still looks very similar, except for the fact that you should find that on all the videos on the Beauty Recommended channels, the titles will start with #ad. The final adjudication I wanted to talk to you about was from November 2015, so towards the end of last year. This time it's on Instagram rather than YouTube, and the influencer involved was Millie McIntosh of Made in Chelsea fame. And she produced this video of her doing this yoga routine, and there was a caption at the beginning of the video which said something like 80s voguing yoga. It wasn't until you watched the video through and got to the end that a caption appeared which said J2O spritz #blend recommends, another text stating 80s voguing X yoga at House of Yoga, more of my #blend recommends with @drink J2O spritz to come, #SP. So kind of lots of basically kind of Instagram social media code in there, but within the caption at the end of the video, essentially there were a number of references to J2O, the brand, the advertiser, and there was this #SP. So the whole video had been arranged by J2O, the advertiser. They'd approached Millie McIntosh and said, we want you to do this video, and somewhere in there we want you to get references to J2O and this blend recommends campaign, and also use the #SP. So again, someone complained, and J2O said, look, there are all these clear references to J2O. We even put in #SP to indicate that it was sponsored. What's the problem? And the ASA said, well, actually there are two problems. First of all, #SP, we don't agree with you that the public at large understand that to mean sponsored. Secondly, even if they did understand it to mean sponsored, that's not actually the right label here, because this isn't just a sponsorship arrangement where you've given some money for Millie to go off and do her own video. This is advertising content because you've told her exactly what you want her to do and how you wanted to label up, etc. So those were the issues. I mean, and then a third issue was the timing of the disclosure. It came right at the end of the video, so. Not good enough again. Rather than #SP, the ASA don't like the label sponsored for advertising content, so it should be #ad or advertisement, promo, something like that. And that should have been right up front at the beginning of the video before the consumer engages. The timing's very important. So that's just what I'd like to end with, a couple of points about the timing of these disclosures, when and how you need to make them. For things like YouTube and Instagram, the easiest way to do it is within the title of the video itself, and put it up at the beginning of the title, so #ad at the beginning of the title if you can. And the reason that that's the best way to do it is because regardless of the device that's being used to view the video, whether it be a tablet or a phone or whatever else, you're going to always be able to see the beginning of the title, and so you'll always see that #ad at the beginning of the title. And that's a very quick, clear, easy way of labelling it in a way that the ASA should always be satisfied with. Avoid the label sponsored when you've both exerted editorial control and made a payment. That's not a sponsorship arrangement, that's advertising. And if you can, just to make sure you're being super compliant, it's a good idea to, somewhere within the video description, also say something like advertisement feature, just to make it absolutely clear. Thanks very much for listening.